Peace be upon you, and welcome to the Pure Prophetic Biography. Today, we begin with you the 11th part of the series, This Beloved, narrated to you by Abu Abdullah, The Incident of the Companions of the Elephant, Part 2. Abraha prepared his army and set out towards the Kaaba. Among the preparations for this army were elephants, horses, and camels. Abraha advanced with his troops, riding on a great elephant, and ordered his soldiers to follow him. The journey to Makkah was long. Each time they passed by an Arab tribe, he sent a group of his soldiers to raid them, looting their wealth, sheep, and camels to feed his massive army along the way. Some tribes, upon hearing of Abraha and his march, were terrified, fleeing and abandoning their homes. Some Arabs tried to fight him but failed against his strong and organized army. As in any time and place, some Arabs aligned themselves with Abraha, offering him assistance to gain his favor. Abraha eventually reached a place near Makkah and camped there. He then sent a division of his army to seize the camels and sheep of Quraysh that were grazing in the mountains and valleys. Among these were camels belonging to Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Beloved, peace be upon him. When the people of Makkah learned of this, they gathered to consult one another. Fear filled the homes of Makkah. They said, "We have no strength to face Abraha and his army." The people of Makkah did not have a trained and organized army, and what increased their fear was the massive elephants carrying soldiers. Abraha sent a messenger to the people of Makkah. He told him, "Go to them and ask for the leader of this land. Tell him, 'The king says to you, I have not come to fight you. I have only come to destroy this house, so do not confront us in battle. Leave the place for us to demolish this house.' If they say they do not want to fight, bring me their leader so I may consult with him." The messenger entered Makkah and asked for the leader of Quraysh. They said to him, "Abdul Muttalib is the leader of Makkah and its elder." Abdul Muttalib came, and the messenger conveyed Abraha's message to him. Abdul Muttalib said, "By Allah, we do not want to fight him, and we have no strength to face him. However, this is the sacred house of Allah, the house of his friend Ibrahim. If Allah wants to prevent Abraha from harming his house, he will do so. And if he allows him to approach it, we have no power to stop Abraha." The messenger said to him, "Come with me, O elder of Makkah, for the king wishes to meet you." Abdul Muttalib went to meet Abraha and sought permission to enter. Abraha asked, "Who is this asking to enter?" They told him, "This is Abdul Muttalib, the elder of Makkah. He is known for feeding people, birds, and beasts, due to his generosity, and providing water for pilgrims." Abraha admired the qualities of Abdul Muttalib. When Abdul Muttalib entered, he was a tall and dignified man with a commanding presence and beauty. When Abraha saw him, he stood up and welcomed him. Abraha, who usually sat on his royal throne with others seated below him, wanted to seat Abdul Muttalib beside him because of his strong presence. Yet Abraha disliked the idea of his entourage seeing him seat Abdul Muttalib as an equal. So Abraha descended from his throne and sat on the carpet, inviting Abdul Muttalib to sit beside him. Abraha then said to his interpreter, "Tell him, what is your request?" The interpreter conveyed this to Abdul Muttalib, who replied, "My request is for the king to return to me the 200 camels of mine that his army seized." When Abraha heard this, he said to his interpreter, "Tell him, I was impressed by you when I saw you, but I have now lost my respect for you after hearing your words. You speak to me about 200 camels that I have taken, but you do not speak to me about a house that is your religion and the religion of your forefathers, which I have come to destroy." Abdul Muttalib replied, "I am the lord of the camels," meaning their owner. "As for the house, it has a lord who will protect it." Abraha said, "Its lord cannot prevent me from destroying it." Abdul Muttalib said to him, "You are free to do as you wish." Abraha returned the camels to Abdul Muttalib, laughing mockingly and repeating, "The house has a lord who will protect it." Abdul Muttalib returned to Makkah and gathered his people. The people of Quraysh asked him, "What is the plan, O elder of Makkah? What is the solution?" He said, "There is no plan. We cannot stop Abraha, but Allah can. So ascend to the mountaintops, "Do not fight him, and leave him to the Lord of the house." Abdul Muttalib then went to the Kaaba, held the ring of its door, and said, "A person protects their own property. O Allah, protect your house." He then prayed, shook the ring, and said to his people, "Ascend to the mountains, and watch what will happen between Abraha and the Lord of the house." They climbed the mountains and began to watch. Makkah was in anticipation, and all the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula awaited news of Abraha and his destruction of the Kaaba. Abraha and his army prepared to enter Makkah and demolish the Kaaba. When Abraha reached the Kaaba, he was riding the largest and most powerful elephant in Abyssinia. This elephant led the others. If it advanced, they advanced. If it knelt, they knelt. The elephants were trained to follow its lead. When this elephant saw the Kaaba, it knelt down, and all the elephants knelt behind it. When they turned its face towards Yemen, it stood up and ran, and all the elephants followed it. They turned it towards the Kaaba, and it knelt again, refusing to move. Abraha ordered them to strike it with iron rods, but it refused to move. They turned it towards Yemen, and it ran swiftly. They turned it towards Levant, and it did the same. They turned it eastward, and it did the same. But when they turned it back towards Makkah, it knelt again. Abraha said, "Give it wine to make it lose its senses. Perhaps it will obey." They gave it wine, but it was of no use. Abraha, enraged, drew his sword and stabbed the elephant between its eyes, killing it. Suddenly, they felt the sunlight being blocked. They looked above and saw flocks of birds like a rain cloud, obscuring the sun with their numbers. The command of Allah, the Most High, had come, the command of the King of Kings. Does man think that no one has power over him? The birds of Ababil, Ababil meaning massive flocks following one another, descended. The people of Makkah said about these birds, "We had never seen their like before or after. Their heads resembled the heads of beasts." Each bird carried 3 stones, 1 in its beak and 2 in its claws, the size of lentils. The birds stood above Abraha's army, screeched, and dropped their stones on them. The stones struck their targets, piercing through each man from head to rear. Allah sent a strong wind that intensified their torment, leaving them as, like eaten straw. The chaff scattered after grain has been extracted. Every man struck by a stone had his flesh torn from his bones, and his blood poured until he perished. Even those who fled were struck by the stones. On their way, their limbs fell off one by one until they resembled featherless chicks. Thus, Allah protected his house, for the house has a Lord who protects it. The incident of the elephant occurred 50 days before the birth of the beloved Prophet, peace be upon him. Allah protected the house in preparation for his birth. Quraysh returned, realizing Allah's greatness and the sanctity of his house. The entire universe began preparing to welcome this prophetic Muhammadan light, peace be upon him. To be continued, his birth and what Amina saw on the day of his birth. Apologies for the length. And with this we come to the end of part 11 of the Pure Prophetic Biography. We will meet again soon, Allah willing, with part 12, so stay tuned. This seerah was written by the humble servant in need of Allah, Al-Anwar Al-Muhammadiyah. It is your duty to spread the seerah of your Prophet, peace be upon him. Perhaps you will meet him at the Blessed Fountain while he is pleased with you, and this will be a reward written for you.